All right, we're over here in downtown. I'm shooting today with the Leica CL and the 50mm f2 Summicron. This is a very old Summicron, but Summicron nonetheless. It shoots wonderfully for me. I'm shooting at f5.6 today. That way it'll give me reasonable depth of field, but it allows in a little more light. I normally shoot at f8, but it's overcast, so I ain't gonna have like a lot of light to work with. So let's go see what we can find for a couple hours. I put 2 hours on the meter. Let's go see. Pretty thin, slim pickings today for getting people. There's people around, but they're not doing really anything interesting. They're just walking down the sidewalk like this cat here. So you don't get anything interesting to photograph. You got people exercising. That's about it. So I don't have a whole lot of photos. I can switch over to architectural, but there's no good light and shadow because it's overcast. So it kind of defaults you to taking pictures of people. And so I came over here to Sleepyhead Coffee, and I've got me a cup of dark roast, and I'm sitting outside. And I'm gonna post up and see if I can get a few photos of some people walking by just to get something today. But there's just not even a lot of that. There's a lot of people driving. Look. But with the whole coronavirus thing, there just ain't anybody out and about. And I don't want to default to photographing homeless people. I'm just not into that. You leave those people be. Just, unless they're doing something interesting or different or whatever, but, photographing the homeless to photograph the homeless isn't cool either. So, I don't know. I'm going to see if I can find something. I got a couple hours on the meter, so, yeah. We'll see what I can find. Got an interesting photo or two. For some reason, they've taken all of the rental bikes away. For whatever reason, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at all this caution tape, and it just occurred to me that those are all the rental bikes and they're all gone. I don't understand that. Maybe they take them away during the winter. Maybe that's when they do all their heavy maintenance on them, I guess, because they have to maintain them. But I just thought that was kind of odd. I got a photo of that. Got a picture or two of some people coming by this Coffee This Way sign. That's kind of an interesting element that I was trying to build into something. Maybe get people looking away from the sign or toward the sign. But yeah, I'm kind of posted up here at the coffee shop just to see what I can find. And there's a few people, but there's just not many. I walked back around to the truck, and I got one subject to talk about that I really want to complain about for a minute, that has to do with camera performance parameters. Why is it that photography equipment is the only genre of consumer product where performance outweighs absolute performance, mind you, anything else to do with the equipment? At least that's what the large influential YouTubers would have you believe. If the camera doesn't perform to this standard that they've arbitrarily set, then you shouldn't buy that device. I see people buying cars based on how they look, based on like whether or not the air conditioning vents point the way they want them to. The tires and wheels make a big difference on a car. None of that equates to absolute performance, because if you only bought the best absolute performing car every year, there would only be one car available. And there would be no choice. People wouldn't be happy. So this camera may not work, like it may not have the largest sensor, it may not have the fastest frames per second. There's a construction truck driving by. It may not have like the fastest eye detect autofocus where it'll reach through a building and use x-ray vision and detect a subject that might come in the frame and focus on it. It don't have any of that crap. I'm currently manually focusing. I'm in single shutter mode. It just boggles my mind that people get so caught up in the megapixel race, the fastest autofocus and the best hit rate autofocus race, that they lose sight of the enjoyment of taking photos. That if the camera doesn't do all of the thinking for you and take this resolutionary photo that is capable of being printed 2 miles by 3 miles, that the camera's not worth buying. I've watched my last Tony Northrup video because of this. He talks about the Z6 II and Z7 II, and by the end of the video, it is literally a commercial for Canon and Sony. And it's just, it blows my mind the way, if it doesn't meet some kind of arbitrary set of standards that he picks, the camera is worthless and it's a failure. It's not a failure. I mean, this is a perfect example. He doesn't even talk about these cameras because he doesn't consider them good. There is an entire industry that has supported Leica cameras over the years. And there are Leica owners all over the world that love these cameras and would shoot with nothing else. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And every time someone buys a Leica, the guys like the big heavy hitter YouTubers always degrade them because, well, I'm going to say because it's my opinion. It's not, I don't know definitively, but I got my opinion. I think it's because these cameras don't have the performance specs of the cameras that they are reviewing, and Leica doesn't pander to that. They do their own thing. They make their own style of camera, and if you want it, you can buy it, and if you don't, go somewhere else. And it's that simple. They're not going to come out and try to do the megapixel race. They have some high megapixel cameras, but there's no 60 megapixel Leicas. You know, they're always a little late to the game with every feature that they bring out, but the cameras take beautiful photos. Like I said, I'm using a 1966 50mm, and it takes gorgeous photos. You don't have to buy into this performance race. People buy all sorts of other stuff based on criteria other than absolute performance. All sorts of stuff. And most of the time it's price. This is strangely enough. And what's bizarre is these new Nikon cameras that are coming out are actually priced better than most of the competition. But he glosses over that and continues to pick on their performance specs and compares them to this and that and this and that to other companies. And then he finally says the only people these cameras are really for are Nikon enthusiasts. That you should buy absolute performance no matter what if you're just getting into photography. Don't buy a camera you enjoy shooting. No, don't do that. Buy one that has the absolute maximum performance specs, because that's more important.